Let's be honest here, shall we? Most men go through their entire lives knowing only 2 or 3 positions. And I'm not being harsh when I say this, but the vast majority never even come close to understanding where a woman truly feels pleasure. They simply move on instinct, doing what they've always done, year after year, without ever realizing there's a whole world of connection they're missing out on. My name is Dr. Amelia Wright, and I've spent over 25 years as a gynaecologist and sexual health consultant here in the UK. I've had thousands of conversations with women of all ages, from young newlyweds to couples who've been together for 50 years or more. And after all that time, after all those consultations, I've come to one conclusion that I think every man needs to hear. The spot that truly makes a woman lose herself, that makes her feel genuinely connected and deeply satisfied, exists at an angle most men have never even considered. It's not where you think it is, and it certainly isn't reached through the positions you've probably been using your whole life. Now, what I'm going to share with you today isn't your typical advice. This isn't about the missionary position. It isn't about what you might have seen in films. And it's certainly not the sort of thing your mates discussed down the pub 30 years ago. What I'm going to explain is a position that, when done properly, stimulates the most sensitive areas of a woman's body, while simultaneously creating an emotional bond that transforms the entire experience. But here's what fascinates me most. This particular approach requires you to understand female anatomy properly. Without that knowledge, you simply cannot achieve the results I'm describing. So before we go any further, I want you to really pay attention, because this could genuinely change everything for you and your partner. Right then, let's start with some basic anatomy, because this is where most men get it wrong. A woman's intimate anatomy isn't just a simple passage. Inside, there are distinct areas. The anterior wall, which faces toward the belly, the posterior wall toward the back, and the lateral walls on either side. Now, of all these areas, the most sensitive by far is the anterior wall, the front wall that faces upward when a woman lies on her back. Along this anterior wall, you'll find what many refer to as the G-spot, but there's more to it than that. Deeper inside, there's another area of heightened sensitivity, and at the very deepest point, there's what some researchers call the deep zone, or the A-spot. These areas are all connected along that front wall, creating what I like to think of as a pathway of pleasure. Here's the problem, though. With conventional positions, reaching these areas properly is actually quite difficult. You see, a woman's pelvis has a natural tilt to it. When a man simply positions himself above and pushes downward in the traditional manner, he's actually bypassing most of these sensitive zones entirely. The angle is all wrong. This is precisely why so many women have spent decades in relationships feeling like something is missing. It's not that their partners don't care. It's that nobody ever taught them the geometry of female pleasure. So what's the solution? Well, this is where we get to the position I want to share with you today. It's called the lateral angle position, or as I sometimes describe it to my patients, the spiral stimulation approach. Now, I know that might sound a bit technical, but stick with me because I'm going to explain exactly how it works. Picture this carefully, because I know some of you have mentioned that visual explanations help enormously. The woman lies on her side, not flat on her back, but properly on her side. Her lower leg extends out straight or just slightly bent for stability. Her upper leg, however, bends forward at the knee, creating an open angle at the hip. Her bottom tilts slightly backward toward her partner. The man positions himself behind her, also on his side, his body curved to match hers like 2 spoons in a drawer, but with a crucial difference. Rather than pressing straight forward, he angles his approach to follow the natural curve of her body. The entry isn't direct and linear. Instead, it follows a gentle arc, a curved path that naturally traces along that sensitive anterior wall we discussed. Can you visualize that? It's rather like the difference between taking a straight road and taking a winding country lane. The winding path touches more points along the way. Now, let me share some real experiences, because I think hearing from actual couples makes this far more meaningful than any amount of theory. Margaret, a lovely woman of 62 from Surrey, came to see me about 18 months ago. She'd been married to her husband Derek for 37 years, and she told me quite candidly that their intimate life had become, in her words, a bit of a going through the motions situation. She loved Derek dearly, but the spark had faded years ago. I explained this position to them both during a joint consultation. Derek was a bit skeptical at first, I won't lie. He'd been doing things the same way for nearly 4 decades, and old habits die hard, don't they? But Margaret convinced him to give it a proper go. 3 weeks later, Margaret came back to see me, and I could tell something had shifted before she even sat down. She said to me, and I remember this clearly, "Dr. Wright, at first I wasn't sure what was happening, but when Derek adjusted the angle slightly, there was this wave of sensation that I honestly cannot describe. I felt things I haven't felt in 20 years. But more than that, I felt like he was actually paying attention to me, like my body mattered to him again." That last part is crucial, and I'll come back to it shortly. Let me tell you about another couple, Richard and Susan, both in their late 50s, from just outside Manchester. They'd reached a point where intimacy had almost completely stopped. Richard had some confidence issues, as many men do at that age, and Susan had started to feel that perhaps this part of their life was simply over. When I introduced them to this approach, Richard was initially worried that it sounded complicated, but I assured him that it's actually far less physically demanding than traditional positions. You're both lying down, you see, both supported by the bed. There's no holding yourself up, no strain on the back or knees. Susan told me afterward, and this really stuck with me. For the first time in years, I felt like Richard was seeing me. Not just my body, but me. The way he moved, slowly and attentively, it felt like he genuinely cared about what I was experiencing. That night changed something between us. We're closer now than we've been in a decade. You see, this is what I really want you to understand. What makes a woman truly respond isn't just physical technique. It's the feeling that her body is being understood, that she's the center of attention, that her partner is genuinely invested in her experience. This position, by its very nature, encourages that kind of attentiveness. When you're curved around your partner from behind, moving slowly in that gentle spiral motion, you're naturally focused on her responses. You can feel her breathing, sense when she tenses or relaxes, notice the small movements she makes. You become attuned to her in a way that simply isn't possible when you're face down, eyes closed, moving on autopilot. There are practical benefits for men too, I should mention. This position is far less tiring than others. You can maintain it for much longer without exhaustion. And because the stimulation is more subtle and controlled, many men find they have much better control over their own responses. For those of you who've struggled with finishing too quickly, this can be genuinely helpful. Now, I want to walk you through exactly how to approach this step by step, because knowing the theory is one thing, but knowing how to put it into practice is quite another. I've refined this guidance based on feedback from hundreds of couples over the years, and I've identified 3 key stages that make the difference between success and frustration. The first stage is all about positioning. Getting this right is absolutely fundamental. Have your partner lie on her side, whichever side is most comfortable for her. Her lower leg should be fairly straight, providing a stable base. Her upper leg bends forward at the knee, opening up the angle of her hips. Her bottom should tilt slightly back toward you. Now you position yourself behind her, your body curved to match the shape of hers. But before anything else happens, take your time. Let her relax into the position. Run your hand along her hip, her thigh, her lower back. Build anticipation. When you do begin to connect, don't rush straight to full contact. Focus first on the external areas, the sensitive nerve endings around the entrance. Only when she's fully relaxed and responsive should you begin to move deeper. This moment of transition from external to internal is actually incredibly important psychologically for women. It creates a sense of anticipation and progression that heightens everything that follows. The second stage focuses on movement. This is where most men go wrong, even when they've got the position right. The instinct is to move in a straight, thrusting motion. But with this position, that approach completely misses the point. Instead, think about creating a gentle curve with your movement. Rather than pushing directly forward and pulling back, imagine your hips moving in a subtle circular or figure-8 pattern. The motion should be smooth, continuous, almost wave-like. This allows for sustained contact with that sensitive anterior wall, rather than just brief moments of contact during each stroke. Many women describe this curved movement as creating a kind of building sensation, like waves gradually getting larger. It's quite different from the more sudden, on-off stimulation of traditional approaches. And here's something important. Don't feel you need to move very much at all. Sometimes the most effective technique is to remain almost still, deeply connected, with just the smallest rocking motion. Let her body guide you. If she starts to press back against you, match her rhythm. If she goes still, pause with her. You're not leading a dance here. You're responding to one. The third stage is about emotional attunement, and honestly, this might be the most important part of all. This position isn't about demonstrating technique or showing what you can do. It's about creating a shared experience where both of you are completely present with each other. Pay attention to her breathing. Notice when it quickens, when it catches, when she holds her breath. These are all signals. Listen for small sounds. Feel for tension in her muscles. When you sense she's approaching a peak of sensation, don't suddenly speed up or change what you're doing. Maintain exactly what's working. So many men make the mistake of shifting gears at precisely the wrong moment. If her hand reaches for yours, if she pulls your arm tighter around her, if she presses back against you more firmly, these are signs that you're doing something right. Don't interpret them as instructions to do more. Interpret them as confirmation to continue exactly as you are. I should mention a few words of caution as well. Every woman's body is slightly different. The angle of the pelvis varies. The internal anatomy has subtle differences from person to person. What works perfectly for one woman might need slight adjustment for another. So especially the first few times you try this, expect some experimentation. If something feels uncomfortable or the sensations aren't quite right, make small adjustments. Shift the angle of her hips slightly. Change the degree of her leg bend. Alter your own position by an inch or two. Communication is essential here. Ask her what feels good, what could be better. There's nothing awkward about that. It's how you learn each other. And please don't approach this with a perfectionist mindset. If you're thinking about this as a technique you must master, you've already missed the point. This is about connection, about presence, about two people exploring pleasure together. The goal isn't to perform, the goal is to share. I want to leave you with one final thought, because I think it's the most important thing I can say. The real purpose of what I've shared today isn't simply to help you satisfy your partner physically. That's part of it, certainly. But the deeper purpose is this. When a woman feels that her body is being understood, that her partner has taken the time to learn what truly brings her pleasure, something shifts in the relationship. She begins to feel seen. She feels valued. She feels that this person genuinely cares about her experience, not just his own. And that feeling, that sense of being truly understood, creates a bond that goes far beyond the physical. I've seen it happen time and time again. Couples who'd grown distant find their way back to each other. Marriages that had gone cold begin to warm again. Partners who'd stopped talking start communicating. Because intimacy isn't just about bodies. It's about the message that physical closeness sends. And the message this position sends is, you matter to me. Your pleasure matters to me. I want to understand you. Once a woman feels that, once she experiences that depth of attention and care, she won't forget it. And she won't want to let go of the person who made her feel that way. Age has nothing to do with this, by the way. I've seen couples in their 70s and 80s rediscover passion they thought was lost forever. The body changes as we get older, certainly. But the capacity for pleasure, for connection, for intimacy, that doesn't diminish unless we let it. What often happens is simply that we fall into habits, we stop exploring, we assume we know everything there is to know. But you don't know everything. None of us do. And that's actually wonderful, because it means there's always more to discover, always ways to grow closer, always new experiences waiting. What I've shared with you today is a starting point. It's not the end of the journey. It's an invitation to begin paying attention in a different way, to approach intimacy with curiosity rather than routine, to prioritize your partner's experience alongside your own. If this has been helpful to you, I'd genuinely love to hear about it. Leave me a comment below, share your own experiences, tell me what questions you have. I read every single comment, and I learn from your feedback just as much as you might learn from me. And if you haven't already, do consider subscribing to this channel. I share information like this regularly, things that no one else really talks about, practical knowledge that can make a genuine difference in your relationships and your life. Click that notification bell so you don't miss anything. Remember, intimacy isn't about technique, it's about understanding. And understanding comes through attention, through care, through the willingness to keep learning, even after decades together. Your willingness to watch this video, to seek out this knowledge, already shows that you care. Now it's time to put that caring into practice. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm Dr. Amelia Wright, and I look forward to continuing this conversation with you in my next video.